Good evening, and welcome to All Ports Motorsport Supercars NZ. This is round 8 of our V8 Supercars as we follow Div 2 tonight to a brand new track, Willow Springs. This is Doug, we're in the broadcasting lounge, and I'm joined with me again tonight with the one and only Shane White. How are we going, Shane?
Yeah, good, thanks, Doug. Brand new track, Willow Springs in America. Couple of 20-lap races coming up to make total 160k events, so it should be super exciting.
100%, yeah, it's going to be an awesome race tonight. We've had a bit of a technical glitch come through this evening with our live timing data not being able to be shown on screen, so going to do our best to show you through the race, where people are and how they're going on, and we'll just do some updates during the race where people are sitting in what current positions. So I believe we're coming up to the end of qualifying now, are we, Shane?
Yes, just over a minute remaining in qualifying, and with it being heat races tonight, they will not be able to finish their laps, so qualifying will end the moment that time runs out.
Wow. So yeah, so you can't put the data up on screen about this brand new track, Willow Springs, but have you got some background information about the track, where it formed, how long it's been around for, how long it is, what kind of challenges the guys might be in for tonight?
I can tell you there's 9 turners, nine turners, 9 corners. A lot of undulation.
Yep.
And that's about all I can tell you at the moment. I can probably bring some more information up there as well.
Rid of some of that garbage.
So it's just over 4 kilometers long. It's in California, Rosamond, California, and it first opened in 1953, making it the oldest permanent road course in America.
Wow, here we go. I believe it's a pretty frequently used track for like celebrity debuts and like one-off try racing. Is that correct? Something along those lines. I think I remember something along the lines of what's his name? The man from Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise, tested a Formula One car around this track.
You may be right there, I'm not sure. It's hosted everything from NASCAR Cup Series to budget level endurance racing. I believe it also features very extensively in Ford versus Ferrari, as it was a test track that was used quite a lot in the testing for the Ford GT40.
Wow. Very cool. Well, I can't really let the people at home know who's there on the grid. Would you give us a care to run down through who's finished where for us before the green light goes?
I can probably look into doing that. So we've got Chris Uppett lining up on pole, Derek Lovegrove in second, Scott McKenzie third, Quinn Wilson fourth, Carl Nedler, Peter Vanderberg, Trent Bennett, Leith Swinney, Cole Taylor, Marty Mitchell, Daniel Johnson, Steve Darren, Scott Cole, Mark Price, Ross Watson, Jason Upton, James Isherwood, and Andrew Johnston rounds out the grid.
Wow, there we go. A total of, what's that, 16, 17 cars on grid?
Looks like 18.
Wow, there we go. Gosh, we're nearly 4 wide down there into the first corner. Everyone's spreading themselves out, making it hard for people to be able to get round. VSK split there by one of the Misfits drivers currently, with a couple more Misfits guys just in front of them. Cole Taylor there in the Pepsi Max car, putting on some pressure onto the back of either Leith or Carl. I believe it's Carl.
Yes, a car sitting just in front of Peter Vanderberg at the moment.
There we go. And I believe that must be Quinn Wilson in the Paraflight's chromed Commodore just ahead of that Misfits car.
Yeah, I believe that's the only Queenstown Paraflights car on the grid, so that will most likely be him.
And what I can only assume was Andrew Johnson well out the back and nearly into the grandstands in the background. Oh, as one of the VSK cars gets a wee touch and goes round, rolls back onto the track but not in front of anyone there.
I think, yeah, that was Carl Nedler, so dropping out of, where was he, 4th position, or I believe, 5th position, and dropping right down to the back of the field. Very tight battle pack here.
Oh,
Cole Taylor getting right into the action here. Cole's set up a new YouTube channel, Cole's Garage, as you can follow him through the process of rebuilding his race car.
yeah, he's got himself a very cool looking gold RX-7. Not sure if it's a Series 6 or something along those shape. The old, they call the Batmobile car, and it's been a project car of his for a long time. And now that he's finally got himself squared away with a bit of shed and some working space and some clear area, he's decided to make a public endeavour on putting his race car back together, and that'll probably only spur him along to keep generating videos as he finds more bits and pieces that are worthy to put back into it. So the big ups to for Cole for stepping out of his comfort zone and doing that, as he's probably just wanting to go back into his comfort zone there, as he just ran a little bit wide off that corner through there. While I've got Cole on screen, we'll quickly have a jump inside the cockpit view, give people at home a bit of a taste of what it looks like. Comes down to the last couple of corners, the big ending corner being a big sweeping right-hander. It's actually toggled off Cole there onto someone else. No, it hasn't. Still, sorry, still with Cole. My apologies. I just read the numbers with full dyslexia.
It's like a massive amount of care.
There we go, as we're on board with Steve Tarrant across the line.
And Cole's still running down the grass, just finally recovering it back onto the track.
There we go, we'll get a bit of on board there with Mr. Steve Darren. Sorry for the unofficial clutter that comes up on the screen. It's the only way they can officially jump between different cameras and cars at the moment, so much apologies for that, but we didn't want the opportunity of a new track being seen by our followers to go amiss, as this track was only released to iRacing this season, and it was one of the tracks, I believe it was voted in as another one was voted out. Can you correct me if I'm wrong on that one, Shona?
No, it was in the calendar all along.
Oh, okay. Oh, I must be confused. Oh no!
Steve goes wide at the final corner.
This is where I was just saying where
gets some air as well.
Yeah, this is where Andrew Johnson just came off the track before as well. So I'm assuming Steve will now be taking his pit stop.
Yeah, he would have picked up some damage as he made his way into the fence there after getting some air, and he does come to pit lane.
Hopefully he didn't just get caught speeding in pit lane there.
Circuit's characterised by long flowing corners, and as I mentioned in the intro, a lot of undulation. So you can see just how long that final corner is and how much up and down there is as they go around the lap. And most of the corners are very long corners, so you can carry some speed through them, but too much, and you will venture off into the sand out in the desert there. And once you're in that sand, you will go a long way off the track.
Indeed you will. So, on board there with... I'm just going to leave that stuff on there. P1 currently Derek Lovegrove. That actually helps out a wee bit, so I might just do that. Add a bit of that over to there. Now there. This is not going to go anywhere else. There we go.
Yes, a nice little battle shaping up at the front as well with Chris Zuppich. At the end of the previous lap was just a tenth of a second behind Derek Lovegrove in the battle for the lead there.
Yep. My apologies. You'll want that one.
And Chris, of course, a new member to Supercars NZ at the start of this season, has joined Passion Sim Racing and probably had some help from Dano's tech support, and it's helped him. He's running near the front of the Div 2 field, so it might be Div 2, but still plenty of talent in this field, so to be running near the front and fighting at the front is very impressive.
Is very, very cool to see. So that's Chris Zuppich there, just in behind Derek Lovegrove.
Just going to have half a look at turn one, just showing the nose, trying to distract Derek, but Derek not falling for those tricks at this stage. And you can see that long, long right-hander at turn two, sweeping all the way through. Derek was never quite at the apex, but just, I think, taking a slightly wider line just to carry a bit more rolling speed there. Certainly a number of corners where that tactic can pay dividends, especially if you can go wide on the entrance and cut back later in the corner to straighten up that exit as well, which I saw Derek doing that a little bit.
That's actually quite an impressive view to watch there. You can see as both those cars are nearly gaining flight over that crest in the track.
Yeah, and Chris really closing in there. Looked like through turn 6 Derek had gone quite wide and maybe had to roll out of the throttle a little bit, but through that final corner there, Derek able to just pull away a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely looked like Derek managed to get himself through that a lot better than Chris. Chris maybe just getting caught out a wee bit and having to sort of carry the brake a bit longer to keep the car centred on the track, or else it was likely it was going to lock up and go off to the side, or he was just going to carry too much speed and roll out wide anyway. So he did a nice job of being able to control his car coming in through there. And you can only imagine the ton of hurt that these cars are expressing on the left-hand side tyres, as I'd say what the majority of the track, it must be six out of the 9 turns are all pretty much right hand down, loading up the left-hand side of the car.
Yeah, we've got 3 left-handers, and obviously that does leave out of 9 corners, leaves 6 right-handers.
Yep, there we go. Quick math, eh?
Yeah, well done. Oh, Chris is going to show the nose again, just having half a look.
Right, jump on the brakes there. Yeah, get it tucked in, nose down. Gun it now.
So Chris looks like he's running a tight line all the way through that turn 8, turn 9 double apex right-hander.
Good run here.
going to comment that it looks like it might have been hurting his momentum a little bit, but he's been able to get the run on Derek down the straight, but not quite able to make it work. Derek's going wider between turns 8 and 9 to open up the second part of the corner, but on that previous occasion, didn't quite work out how he would have been planning for it.
Yeah,
But able to hold onto position anyway.
Yeah, look at the gap margin that they've been able to generate back to P3 with Quinn Wilson still chipping away back there.
Yeah, that's sitting at just under 4 seconds, 3.7 seconds back to, well, 3.7 from Derek Lovegrove back to Quinn Wilson. That's
and
at the end of the
Leaf
previous
Swanee just behind him. I have a bit of a...
Yes, so Quinn and Leith both having a slightly lonely race. Leith probably close enough that Quinn will be aware he's there and aware that he doesn't really need any mistakes, but certainly not a battle at the moment. Scott Cole down the order a lap off the pace.
Yep.
So he's obviously had some issues there at some point.
There's your P5 there, Marty Mitchell. MX Raps entry, doing very well for himself. Looking good. Daniel Johnson there in the very cool looking NZ liveried Mustang. Taking his time to patiently get himself around the track. No need to overdrive tonight and having a mistake or an error. He's in a good runnings at the moment to bank some good points.
Yeah, and with the old man at the tail end of the field, he'll be bagging some good points in their little mini championship battle there.
Correct. Just a quick update to the folks at home who have tuned in. I had a comment from Wayne Van Biljon just asking about the overlays, and yes, no, unfortunately the overlay software that we use through SDK has put out an apology this evening of all times to say that they're having some issues with the iRacing live timing data and making itself work, and they don't foresee a fix being within the what they say about the next 6 to 8 hours or something. So unfortunately for us, that puts us outside of our streaming time. So again, we thought, well, might as well bring the new track to you guys anyway and do our best to commentate on what we can see. As I see James Ishwood falling off into the grass there. Well, what should be grass, it's just a lot of dirt.
Yeah, sand is probably a bit more accurate.
I think he needs about an extra 70mm lift on that car before he goes and plays up on the mountains.
At least. And of course we can't take you back to have a look at what happened there, because another thing SDK controls is our replays.
It does a great job of highlighting and recording and finding the crash data and off-track data and passes and that. So yes, we're quite severely handicapped as from our normal there. After all of that, it says James is still in P7. I'm not too sure. I saw a few cars go by, but they might have been out of sequence.
So that will only update when he crosses the line, or as the cars in front of him cross the line. So you can see it's dropped into 9th now.
Yep. As he comes into the pit stop, he'd be wise to get some repairs done and get a fresh set of tyres on and go back out there and try and do something better with that. Have a look and see what iRacing wants to show us on here, and currently it's Derek Lovegrove. No, we've changed our battle between Daniel Johnson and who I can assume is that Carl, the 66 entry?
66 is Carl, yes.
Is Carl out of position there, or is he essentially in P6?
He's showing in P9 on my timing, but that I think has probably
Could
changed around with
change
some
again.
pit stops. Interestingly, something's happened to Derek Lovegrove, not quite sure what. So, oh hang on, not sure whether he's pitted or not. This is all very challenging without all our usual data that we've got access to. I think well, if he has pitted, I think he's going to emerge as the leader of the race.
Wow, there we go.
But if he hasn't pitted, he had dropped off Chris for some reason.
Okay, yep, we're on with Chris now, and it's showing him as being in P3, as he was in P2 before, so unless those two have both... Oh gosh, there's James going in for another wee explore the infield.
So Chris, I can confirm, has pitted. I've been able to find that. Yes, Derek did pit a few laps ago, so that I would assume would be why he had dropped off. Yeah, so that's why he had dropped away from Chris. And Chris has managed to pass him at some point as well, and then Derek's pitted and dropped away, and Derek has emerged with what will be actually quite a substantial corrected lead now of about 3 seconds, but Chris will have fresher tyres to fight back in the closing stages of the race.
There we go, so there's Chris there. Looks like he's got the windows wound down there on the PSR entry. Must be pretty hot up there at Willow Springs. Certainly was sunny out there before. He's actually come out in a pretty good spot there. Derek not too far up the field ahead of him, and Quinn pacing along nicely behind. Still assuming what can only be corrective third position.
So Mark Price currently our leader on track, but he, I believe, has not pitted as yet.
Yep, so...
And actually
Derek
Mark in the pits now. So Derek does take over the lead as Mark finally takes his pit stop with 6 laps remaining.
So just looking ahead off the back of Quinn Wilson's Paraflight liveried Commodore there, currently in third, and you can see just up ahead of him Chris Zuppich in second. And when there's a bit of clear space around the corner here, you'll be able to see the Misfits red and white Mustang just around the corner from them, which is Derek Lovegrove sitting there in first place. So these guys have already, or nearly 2/3 of the way through this 20 lap race. What's the feature race bringing for us tonight?
Exactly the same, another 20 laps.
Oh, very good. Bringing out our total of 160 kilometres of racing for Kapahaka makers, the Nitafia.
Correct.
And if you're not too familiar with what the Kapahaka makers, the Nitafia group is, and that's another business of Brendan Browning, admin and fellow racer. And the Nitafia has been looking after, well, I suppose, making Kapahaka outfits, as we saw through at the beginning of the stream, so they're quite invested with a lot of the groups through New Zealand and generating their outfits. So if you've gone along to one of those events and seen them doing their performances and stuff, there's a very high likelihood that a lot of that material has been put together by Brendan and his team through Kapahaka Makers, and it certainly looks great, and I'm sure the team's truly appreciative of the hard work that goes into making that. So big shout out to you, Brendan Brownie, for doing that.
Around the back of the circuit, I noticed crowd just gathered at the top of the bank. Well, no real barriers in front of them, so it's a little
No
bit
sitting on the pit wall.
Bit of an interesting, unique little thing about this circuit, where these days you'd normally see very tight rules about where you can and can't watch the racing from, where yeah, you can see there, just at the top of that bank, absolutely nothing stopping a car flying into those spectators.
There you go, that sounds like something that a Sunday Fun Day event should go and explore and see whereabouts they land.
Very much.
What have we got? Couple of laps to go now, have we?
Yeah, we'll be 3 laps at the completion of the one they're currently on.
Okay.
Which I believe Derek's just come in around the last corner now.
Yep, we're just on board again with Chris Uppich here in the PSR entry. PSR team are currently about to take on some new sponsorship, which is an awesome thing for them, and that's going to involve a little bit of rebranding, and I think they're taking the opportunity alongside with that just to update their logo a wee bit, their PSR logo, the Passion Sim Racing. So look forward to seeing that. I heard from Dane tonight that he's going to send Shane and myself some info around that shortly, so keep your eyes peeled in the next week or two or so. Hopefully not too much longer on that one. Yeah, some new, well, maybe a variation in colours, but certainly some bit of a new design and sponsorship for those guys. So that's an awesome thing.
Yeah, currently though, Chris Uppich putting those fresher tyres to good use. He's been able to close the gap to Derek Lovegrove and putting them under all sorts of pressure again as he was earlier on in the race. He was able to find his way past before the pit stop. We missed the move that transpired there, but certainly after Derek got back past to an undercut, more pressure coming on, and Chris having a look down the inside, not quite able to get the job done. But certainly making his intentions clear, showing Derek that he is there, he does want to race. Just 2 laps remaining now. Can Derek hold on? Can Chris get the job done?
Well, just remember, Chris was actually the one who was P1 for the start of the race and just got away a wee bit poorly, losing out to Derek, and he's been following Derek for the majority of this race, so he'll be absolutely clenching his teeth at the moment, hoping that he can get back into that number 1 spot before we run into the feature race event for this evening. I'm pretty sure you said that they're on the coming up to white flag.
Yes, they will be taking the white flag this time around as they come through the last corner now. And Derek just able to stretch that gap out again through the final corner. He's been most of the time getting a fairly good run through that final corner and off that final corner, and that's very beneficial to him, because I think the best chance for Chris to try and find a way past under normal circumstances would be turn 1, but with Derek able to get off the final corner strongly, it's able to give him enough of a gap that Chris isn't able to have a lunge down at turn 1.
Yep. Derek's certainly done a good job of making his Mustang that's not only stupidly long compared to the real thing, but exceptionally wider than what it probably appears at the moment, and not really giving much of a glance of a way through for Chris there behind him, who's managed to just find a little bit more extra toe coming down into the braking point of the last corner. Chris seeing if he could put a last minute shake into by closing it under his mirror as they came into the final turn, but that is a mighty fine race between those guys there, and you'll be able to give the people at home a quick 1, 2, 3, 4 as the other guys have come across the line.
Yes, so Quinn Wilson comes home third, Leith Swinney fourth, Peter Vanderberg fifth, Scott McKenzie sixth, Carl Nedler seventh, Daniel Johnson eighth, Mark Price ninth. Actually, Daniel Johnson and Scott McKenzie have just swapped positions, so something happened to Scott McKenzie on the last lap there. And Marty Mitchell will come home in 10th.
Well, there we go. Not a bad run from the folks there. I've had a comment from John here on the chat. Thanks for sticking with us there, John, and tuning in, even though we haven't got our normal data and bits and pieces up for the evening, and bearing with us as we mumble our way through this. But he said the in-car vision looks great with an exclamation mark. So we'll try and bring you a couple more of those through the next race. Hey, might even be able to look at jumping on board with one of our cars sitting around the top 10 and from the onboard, and give people at home a bit of a looky at what the opening lap looks like from inside one of those cars.
So we've got a 5-minute warm-up in between races now, so a chance for guys to maybe go and use the toilet if they didn't before that first race, get some warm-up laps in. A couple of cars there in the lane.
Go to the toilet. It's definitely a must when you've got an opportunity to go. Definitely go.
100%.
Nothing worse than when your legs are dancing up and down, and your legs want to dance up and down in a different manner. There we go. So hopefully that should bring on board for us some cameras for the rear vision mirror, which was just temporarily missing in that last shot. So there we go, not quite pointing at everything going on, but giving us a little bit better view of what the guys are seeing from in behind their wheel as Steve Darren goes out and contemplates how he can get himself a bit further up through the finishing order in this race. Obviously not recovering as well as he would have wanted to after going and taking a tiki tour off on the last bend.
And there he's overcooked it up at the top there at turn 4.
Still cold tyres just rolled out of the pit lane as well, so it's definitely not a bad thing to feel out where the car is weak during that opening lap or two, just like a real race car. And tyres in here take a while to come up to temperature, and you can very quickly exceed optimum tyre temperature and run in what we would call, as he shows us here again, negative grip.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Obviously, when you do a qualifying session or a long race, by the end of those sessions, you're generally running around on warm tyres and with pretty decent grip. And it can be easy to forget that when you roll out at the start of the next race, you're going to have cold tyres again. So it's probably not a bad idea to go out and do a few out laps on cold tyres in the warm-up session to remind yourself just what that cold tyre grip's going to be like. Be ready to start the race again.
Yep.
You can see just how much Cole's fighting the understeer all the way through there.
And then, of course, there's nothing out there to brake on, and Cole's actually experimenting with how to keep himself away from the wall, which was to add power, which has sort of worked out, but I imagine the redress onto the track doing that could potentially result in some dramas, as now Cole does some D1NZ for us. Nice recovery, 360 though, that was pretty superb actually. I think Cole's potentially missed. Well, he certainly didn't miss that. Okay.
Looks like Cole might have been listening to Wayne and Dana's comments on the stream last week and trying to prove them wrong and prove that you can drift at V8 on iRacing.
Yeah.
Not having much success at the moment though.
Jason trying his hand at doing that as well. Now I didn't quite catch what Jason said he was running as far as his livery goes, but I believe it's Collingwood Magpies or something. I believe they're an Aussie AFL team.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Okay. It looks like we're counting down to the last couple of seconds there of time remaining, so everyone should now be forced back to the pits, and there it is, checkered flag getting waved. Oh, a preemptive salute with the green flag there as well from our iRacing controller. So who's sitting in P10 currently?
P10 is Marty Mitchell.
So Marty Mitchell, he's going to give us the honours of the opening lap onboard view. Just have a quick squiz and see what gyro looks like. No, that's on the roof. Let's do it in the car.
I'm just waiting for that grid time to tick down. Just 5 seconds left, and then we should see some start lights come up.
Well, we won't because we don't have
Of course.
SDK to provide that for us. So
Of course.
anyone tuning in now, sorry, no timing tower, no green lights, no ticker. As Marty's got an absolute ripper of a start there, getting nearly 2 positions before turn 1.
Yeah, the RSK car in front getting a little bit twitchy between those two Misfits cars, but able to slot into position and looking like it's all settled down into single file pretty nicely, but Marty Mitchell looks like he's managed to make his way up to about maybe 6th or 7th position there after starting 10th. Goes pretty hot into turn 3 there though. There's a big moment. Takes a hit from behind as well. He's been straightened up. But now he's got those super heated rear tyres. He's out of the groove. He's lost a few spots. Cole Taylor coming past on the outside there.
Stay it steady now, Marty. He had like I said, he had a great start, and he was certainly putting the pressure onto his car right from the get-go. But yeah, unfortunately, he's dropped about 4 or 5 spots there as he comes around to the last corner. And his car's very well balanced. I don't think I've seen many cars be able to jump straight out the gate as well as what his has, effectively. So unlucky, just got a little bit loose, maybe a wee bit of a tap on the rear, and then another one in the side. I believe was possibly Daniel Johnson there with AJR entry, and now Marty's on the charge. 19 laps to go with Cole Taylor in front of him, and then Mark Price just a touch further ahead of him. but that gives the folks at home a very quick, raw understanding of what these drivers are having to go through on a race start. Shane and I have been there all too many times, and I don't really think it ever gets any less nerve-wracking or easier. Shane, for me, I find, certainly not for myself, it's a hard mental game to try and keep telling yourself to remain calm, find apexes, and try not to get caught into battles too early. How do you approach your race start session?
Oh, as Marty's just had a big moment off the final corner, goes to the infield. Yeah, it's a tricky one because you really got to find that right balance between. Oh, this is a big moment involving one of the Johnson cars there.
Steve Darren.
Johnson, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, so where was I going with that? You got to find that right balance between being aggressive and not too aggressive, because it's easy to want to try and pick up spots that maybe aren't really on. Try and take advantage while everything's all compacted and end up getting yourself in trouble that way. But at the same time, if you get a little bit too conservative and just back off from the car in front of you, you can quite easily open the door for the car behind you to get their nosy on the inside. And once you get out of that rhythm, it's very easy to drop a lot of spots, like we saw there with Marty Mitchell there, where that was probably not so much a matter of being too conservative, but we saw him look like he'd pushed a bit too hard into turn 3 and understeered, which probably set it all off to start with. But similar thing where once you get out of that groove and lose one position, it's very easy to start losing a bunch more.
Yep. No, exactly. Yeah, well said, and that's sort of why I think I try to take that mental approach to at least solidly finding apexes and getting into that rhythm pretty quickly. But it is very, very hard on the opening laps from doing solo laps where you're hitting your braking markers at where you should be at full speed, through to turning in at the right point to get through the corner and the exit at the right point as well, because when you're through with the starting lap and everyone's a lot tighter together, braking markers are pretty much out the window. You're relying that the first car is going to be hitting it at the right point and the next car behind him is going to be doing it 2 metres back, and so you've got to mentally calculate where you need to be braking so you stay tight enough to the car in front without opening the door to the car behind. So all this is going on whilst you're still thinking about staying as close as you can. You're not wanting to watch your mirrors too much when people are making moves, but then you've got to be conservative and watch them at the same time to make sure that someone hasn't had a mistake and is about to come slamming through your door, and you've got to open the wheel up to allow them to essentially skate on by or wreck themselves, as we call it, and then remain consistent to keep moving forward under that initial charge. So if you're interested in joining what sounds like psycho bellow dancing, hit us up at Supercars NZ. Get yourself a simulator, which you could do by heading across to Allports Motorsport. Go and get in touch with Richard and the team over there. Go to allports.nz, have a look at their products online. They've got a discount for their Sparko gaming product at the moment, 15% off at checkout. Just put the SCNZ code in there while you're using the wife's credit card to sneak through that early birthday or Christmas present. Get yourself an iRacing subscription and come along and tell us how you do a race start and how you can do it all that much better than us. Love to see you there. So I think we're about we're lap 6 now, are we, Shano?
Yeah, currently on lap 6.
Lap 6, and looking at Derek Lovegrove there, who was just passed a couple of laps before by by Chris in the PSR entry, so he's sitting up there in P1 at the moment. There's Chris doing his thing.
Yeah, and Chris is certainly looking to get the hammer down and make hay. He's pulled out a gap of just over a second, so he will be looking to see if he can extend that a little bit more. We saw him after getting past Derek in the first race. He then lost out to the undercut and wasn't able to find a way past at the end of that previous race despite having fresh tyres at the end. So
correct.
he'll be wary of that, and that gap has closed up down to under a second now. So
yeah, just making a wee bit of an error coming down into that final braking point again. I heard him lock the inside right tyre a little bit, and he had to just come off the brake a wee bit again and then back onto it. So I'd say he probably just gave away somewhere between 0.4 and 0.6 of a second to Derek behind him. Derek will be wanting to try and stay, one, as close as possible, two, just bring that margin down a little bit more if he can, get a little bit closer to that slipstream, because that'll help him have a bit of a trade-off with possibly how much fuel he needs to put in if he's not already under-fueled the car anyway. But then we don't know, has Chris under-fueled to be able to have a slightly lighter car to get slightly earlier, faster lap times ahead of Derek? And these are all the other things that the guys have to consider. Race strategy, what worked for me in the last race, what do I think I could possibly change to make myself at a better chance of walking away with that awesome P1 gold certificate at the end of it.
yeah, a few cars touring a number of cars touring the sand at the final corner. Peter Vanderberg had gone off. We've just seen Cole Taylor rejoining. Scott McKenzie's been off and is making his way into the pits for a fast repair with some damage. I think I saw James Isherwood go off as well, not to the same extent that some of those other guys did, but certainly was off the track. So almost looked like maybe some oil down at the final corner. A number of cars losing grip and finding their way off the track there.
Yeah, well, there's certainly a few dodgy Mustangs out there that are probably dropping some oil. So we can't always have it the way we want it to. I think Steve Darren's just come into the pits there. Oh, crikey! And Steve just redressing into the side of another car as they're coming into the pit lane. So Steve's now parked it up. I think he just came together with Peter Vanderberg there right on the pit lane entry. So it was Carl in the VSK entry seeing that and dressing that. So we're now having a look here, a battle between Ross Watson and James Isherwood there. Cole Taylor just in behind him. As you can see down the bottom there from the chat, if you can read it there on the device that you're streaming the race on, a few people saying thanks to each other with an exclamation behind it. Sometimes that thanks is a little bit hard to decipher as to whether or not it's a legitimate thank you or if it's an off-kilter fuck you. I think that iRacing should allow us to have the thumbs up emoji. Just my thoughts.
I would agree with that.
Everyone loves a passive-aggressive thumbs up emoji.
So Derek Lovegrove has come to pit lane, again looking to try the undercut on Chris Uppich, so Chris not getting in early to protect against that, so we'll see if he's been able to make enough of a gap to protect against the undercut on this occasion.
There we go. Well, what we'll do is we'll give people this awesome shot of looking backwards around the track again. You can keep an eye on Chris and see if he reacts to Derek coming into the pits.
So Chris is coming through the final corner now, so we'll see if, or I'll see if he heads to pit lane.
To that.
And he does. So he waited a few laps in the previous race, but this time around, learning his lesson, reacting to that pit stop as Derek just squeezing through Mark Price, the lap car there.
Yeah. Mark doing a pretty good job. He was there earlier getting out of people's way as well, so yeah, no, good respect there too.
So Chris goes up on the jacks.
And Derek's coming around the last corner.
Chris is leaving his box, leaving the lane, getting back up to speed. You can see him just emerging there towards turn 1 in the distance, and looks like it's going to have him covered off nicely.
Yeah, and Derek just not getting enough slipstream there, sitting behind James Isherwood to warrant getting by him coming down into P1. So you can actually see there just ahead over in the top right hand corner. Derek's closed into the back of James now. James doing the right thing. He's racing. He's allowed to be there. No stress there. Just getting out of the way there now. Feeling the pressure. Realising that battle's not worth it. But so just ahead of Derek we've got I believe the SDI entry of Steve Darren, and then it's Chris Zuppich just ahead. So Chris is actually well and truly covered off any potential gain there that Derek might have been able to chisel out of his already extending lead. So I'd say well done, Chris. That's you've deserved to keep hold of that P1 spot at the moment. Hopefully you can carry on through to the end as Steve hits the line very rapidly.
Yeah, there's a big lock up, big puff of smoke there.
I see an interesting message there from Scott Cole, who I believe is our American resident, isn't he?
I believe that's correct. That would explain why it's 2:30 a.m. there, and his double vision is super bad. And I had noticed earlier that it didn't appear as though he had made the start of the second race. I was going to comment on that, and then people started falling off the track, and I forgot to come back to that. So thanks, Skull, for putting that explanation up. Getting a bit late there and struggling to focus on the racing, which is unfortunate. But cheers, Cole, for joining us in the early hours of the morning over there, and
100%.
we'll hope to see you back next week.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I was just about to say. Yeah, big ups to you for coming along and joining us in Little Kiwi Land at Supercars NZ for the All Ports Motorsport Div 2 V8 series. And hope you get yourself some good rest now. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Carl Nedler here doing a very good job in his VSK Mustang, getting a little bit closer lap after lap to Derek Lovegrove ahead of him. And what I can confirm, which I don't believe I shared the information to you earlier. No, I did. Well, I'll take the opportunity to talk about it. Carl Nedler is our current point leader in the Div 2 series, followed by Derek Lovegrove, who is the car just ahead of him. And then in the third spot is Peter Vanderberg, and not very closely separated behind him, falling down the order, is Steve Darren and Leith Swinney, another one of the VSK drivers there. So leading the race at the moment, Chris Zuppich in P1 is actually sitting down in 11th in the current championship. So this will certainly bring his name up the board a wee bit. Seeing we've had Wayne Van Biljon comment tonight, so I'm guessing he's not here. Daniel Johnson's had a bit of a rough run. I don't believe Scott McKenzie's out there tonight, is he?
Yeah, I've seen Scott's name out there. He is currently sitting in 11th position.
Well, let's put Scott McKenzie on screen because we clearly obviously haven't seen him, as we see James off in the background again going and doing what he's doing over there. So there's Scott McKenzie. P9. Trent Bennett. Is Trento in there tonight?
Yep, Trent is sitting in 11th position, just behind Scott.
That's funny because I'm pretty sure you just said Scott was in P11, so obviously someone's come into pit lane.
Yeah, I think those positions have just updated and they've all moved up one.
I was also thinking, if I go to a third driver and you say P11. So there we go. So this is still on board with Scott, and I believe just behind him is his teammate Trento. There he is. So a little bit of Trent action for the people at home, sporting the ever famous number 69, the V8 entries there. So yeah, so a few of those guys, a bit further down the order than probably where they usually finish. A couple of people not here,
Trent
so
taking the rallycross joke off again.
It must be the exhaust side of the car, because there's obviously a bit of a slick line out there every time the cars, those Mustangs must be coming round, loaded up on the left hand side, leaning over a little bit, oil's leaning to the side, going down the exhaust, dripping out there on the track. I'm going to go with that anyway.
Sounds about right.
So lap 15, and we have Chris Zuppich here, still hanging out there in P1, and he's done a good job. I'm going to say that'd be about a 3.5 to 4 second gap over Derek Lovegrove there. And let's count it. 1 Mississippi.
5.2 last time across the line.
3
Sorry to spoil your fun there.
4 Mississippi. 5 Mississippi. See, I got there. There are 5 Mississippis between P1 and P2 there. I don't know who at home who you want to believe, whether you go by the Mississippis, or this guy Shane, who I don't know where he's getting his data from. Clearly not SDK, because we haven't got that tonight.
I'm reading it off the results tab in iRacing, which updates every time they cross the line.
2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippis. Oh, yep, see, there we go. So, yeah, he's just under 6 Mississippi CCs now. What does it say when he comes across the line? You tell me.
Five and a half.
Yeah, I'm going with mine. I don't think iRacing is quite there. Their timing, I think, that's just a little bit off. I don't think they've calculated the total length distance of the car. It's angle tuned to the lean in at the corner. All that kind of stuff. All those things that the Mississippis bring in, factor into calculating that.
Sure.
Andrew Johnson here at the, which I only can assume is the back of the pack. P14 currently.
Looks like 17 cars running. Assuming Steve's... Oh, no,
Steve
looks like
Darren
Steve's
gone, Scott
gone.
Cole
It's
gone.
manually disconnected. Daniel Johnson is at the rear, but not the one you were thinking. Daniel Johnson in 16th is currently the last car still running.
Lap 17, car number 19, and P13 is James Isherwood. It's been quite cool seeing James's name back and having a wee bit of a play in a race. I haven't had the pleasure of getting back out there and racing him in the GT3s. Last time he was racing in the Ferrari and not overly having very good racing. I think he took a season and a bit off, and he's come back to do some skids in the V8s. He certainly seems to be having some fun with himself doing that. Well done, James. There's Ross Watson there in P12. Misfits team certainly, their colours certainly fill up the charts these days.
Yeah, very effective, simple yet effective livery that they run as well. So
yes, certainly no mistaking which team it is. And again, it's one of those. It's one of those ones that even between their couple of their Commodore entries.
Trent's off the track again.
He's like, where does it come back on? Oh.
He's found himself behind the barrier now and runs into the fire station.
Well,
and goes back to pit lane.
There's Daniel Johnson there as he's just come across the line, lap 18. And so he is our last car circulating laps, which is a bit unfortunate because Daniel was doing a pretty good job during the last race.
Yeah, not quite sure what happened to Daniel there to have him down the back of the pack.
And that's pretty much the spread from there. So coming into lap 19 now. Just around here a bit
they're
further.
on lap 19, so they're going to come into lap 20 now, so he's going to take the white flag.
That's it, so white flag getting waved up there in the box, and Chris has certainly put his stamp on coming through into this final lap of the race. Have a quick look at how he's still hanging on to his tyres as he takes us on our final crusade here at Willow Springs. Big thank you to iRacing for their continued efforts, work and development on new race circuits from around the world. If they've been able to recreate Willow Springs to such fashion that is incredibly alike to the real thing, it makes me foam at the teeth even more to see what Pukekohe comes out like with all its twists and turns and bumps and grinds as well. And here we go, dipping down into the final apex. Chris, one final nudge at the grass as he comes.
What grass?
There was grass there, I saw it. Comes across the line to finish P1. Well done, Chris. That is all yours, buddy. Excellent drive.
And Derek Lovegrove comes home second. Carl Nedler rounding out the podium. Peter Vanderberg comes home in fourth. Quinn Wilson fifth. Leith Swinney sixth. Carl Taylor seventh. Just coming through the final corner now, so as long as he can keep it clean, he's not under threat from anybody. Scott McKenzie bringing it home in eighth. Ross Watson currently sitting ninth as he comes into the last corner now. Just has to navigate this final corner cleanly to secure that position, and looks like he's managed to do that, and not too far behind him, but certainly too far to challenge at this point. Martin Mitchell is going to come home to round out the top 10.
Fantastic. And look at all those ecstatic people there in the crowd with their camper vans in tow, race trailers in the background. So, yeah, once again, iRacing putting on an awesome show for us by giving us an awesome looking racetrack with awesome looking scenery. It's all laser digitally scanned to replicate as pretty much exactly real life as what you could see if you turned up to see the real racetrack in person. So that's a really cool thing. So yeah, big apologies for not being able to have up our normal information spread and data, and just a little bit of untidiness there on the stream at times with the extra iRacing graphic details coming up and now and again, being able to have to change between people. But we hope we've put on a good enough show for you to stick it out and tune back in with us on Thursday, as the other guys should take over from Shane and I, and that would be Sean and Wayne as they follow the GT3s. And this week we are heading to where, Shane?
We are heading to Barcelona.
Barcelona, Catalonia. Very cool. So that'll be an interesting one. Might even tempt myself to go and turn a few laps and see how that goes. Not too sure whether you'll be there, Shane.
I hope to be, but we'll have to wait and see.
See how work and life goes. So that's always the normal there. But yeah, tune in with us on Thursday for the GT3s. And yeah, just a big thanks again to All Ports Motorsport, our main series sponsor. Big thanks to them for being on board with us for as long as they have. We've got some cool things coming up in the very near future with them. Some more prize giveaways and bits and pieces. A big thank you to the Kapahaka makers. If you are part of a Kapahaka group and you're looking at updating some of your uniforms and stuff, feel free to get in touch with the Knit Affair group on Facebook, and that's Brendan Brownie, the Knit Affair. You'll find them on Facebook. Kapahaka makers, they should be able to well and truly sort you out with all your bits and pieces and needs. Yeah, well, that's us. Thank you once again, Shane, for joining me in the broadcasting lounge, and I hope to see you again later on.
Thank you. See ya.
See ya.